Hello. You're on chapter 29 of A Lesson Before Dying. No, 28, I'm sorry. On page 219. So, chapter 27 was about the confrontation Reverend had with Grant about God and religion and Jeff and saving his soul and um, asking him to lie to Jeff about heaven so he can believe in it, so he can be saved, so his godmother, Miss Emma, could feel happy that uh, when she dies, Jeff is going to be there waiting for her. Because after Jeff gets executed, Miss Emma's going to die pretty soon after that. So Reverend wants to make sure that Jeff gets saved so that his godmother could be there with him. So chapter 28 on page 219. I went into the cell with the paper bag full of baked sweet potatoes. The deputy locked the heavy door behind me. How's it going, partner? Jefferson nodded. How do you feel? I'm all right. I'll buy you a little something. Jefferson was sitting on the bunk, with his hands clasped together. I put the bag beside him on the bunk and sat down. I could hear the radio on the floor against the wall, playing a sad cowboy song. I saw the notebook and the pencil on the floor, next to the radio. This was my first visit since I've given him the notebook and pencil, and I could see that the lead on the pencil was worn down onto the wood. I would also see that he had used the eraser a lot. We were quite we were quite a while. Hungry? I asked. Maybe later. I seen you've been writing. He didn't answer. Personal, or can I look at it? It ain't nothing. Do you mind? I asked. If you want. I got the notebook and came back to the bunk. The fellow on the radio was saying what a beautiful day it was on Baton Rouge. Jefferson had filled 3/4 of the first page. The letters were large and awkward, the way someone would write who could barely see. He had written across the lines instead of above them. He had used eraser so much that in some places the paper was worn through. Nothing was capitalized and there were no punctuation marks. The letters were thin at the beginning, but became broader as the lead was worn down. As closely as I could figure, he had written, I dreamt it again last night. They was taking me somewhere. I wasn't crying. I wasn't begging. I was just going with them. Then I woke up. I couldn't go back to sleep. I didn't want to go back to sleep. I didn't want to dream no more. There was a lot of erasing. Then he wrote, if I ain't nothing but a hog, how come they just don't knock me in the head like a hog? Starve me like a hog. More erasing. Then man walk on 2 foots, hogs on 4 hoofs. The last couple of words were barely visible because the lead had been worn down all the way to the wood. I read it over a second time before closing the notebook. I didn't know what to say to him. He was staring at the wall, his hands clasped together. Do you want me to bring you a pencil sharpener? I asked after a while. The little ones you hold in your hand, if you can find one. I'm sure I can, I said. You know, Pa would have a sharpener in his pencil for you. He wouldn't mind. Jefferson had unclasped his hands, and now he was scraping the ends of his left fingernails with the index finger of the right hand. With fingernails were hard and his fingernails were hard and purplish. When's Easter? He asked. Tomorrow is Good Friday. That's when he rose? No, he rose on Easter. That's when he died, Jefferson said to himself. Never said a mumbling word. That's right, not a word. Did you talk to Reverend Ambrose when he came to visit you? I asked Jefferson. Some. You ought to talk to him. It's good for your Nana. She wants you to talk to him. He told me to pray. Do you? No. It would be a good for you, Nana. It would be good for your Nana. He looked at me. His eyes were large and sad and reddened. You think I'm going to heaven? He asked. I don't know. You think Mr. Grope went to heaven? You think Brother and Bear went to heaven? I don't know. Then what am I gonna pray for? For your Nana. Nana don't need me to help. Nana don't need me to help her get to heaven. She'll make it. She'll make it if it's up there. She wants you to go. She wants you there with her, where there's no pain and no sorrow. He grinned at me, a brief, cynical grin. You pray, Mr. Wiggins? No, Jefferson, I don't. He grunted. But then I'm lost, Jefferson. But then I'm lost. Jefferson, I said, looking at him closely. At this moment, I don't believe in anything, like your Nana does, like Reverend Ambrose does, and like I want you to believe. I want you to believe so that one day maybe I will. In heaven, Mr. Wiggins, if it helps others down there on earth, Jefferson. Reverend Ambrose say I have to give up what's down here. Say there ain't nothing down here on this earth for me no more. He mean possessions, Jefferson. Cars, money, clothes, things like that. You ever seen me with a car, Mr. Wiggins? No. With more than $1 in my pocket? No. More than 2 pairs of shoes, Mr. Wiggins? One for Sunday, one for working in? No, Jefferson. Then what on earth I got to give up, Mr. Wiggins? You've never had any possessions to give up, Jefferson, but there is something greater than possessions, and that is love. I know you love her and would do anything for her. Didn't you eat the gumbo when you weren't hungry? Just to please her? That's all we're asking for now, Jefferson. Do something to please her. What about me, Mr. Wiggins? What about what people done to please me? Hasn't she done many things to please you, Jefferson? Cooked for you, washed for you, taken care of you when you were sick? She is sick now, Jefferson, and she's asking for only one thing in this world. Walk like a man. Meet her up there. You're asking a lot, Mr. Wiggins. From a poor old nigger who never had nothing. She would do it for you. She'd go to that chair for me, Mr. Wiggins? You? Anybody? He waited for me to answer him. I wouldn't. No, Mr. Wiggins, I got to go myself, just me, Mr. Wiggins. Reverend Ambrose said God'll be there if I ask him. You think he'd be there if I asked him, Mr. Wiggins? That's what they say, That's what they say, Jefferson. You believe in God, Mr. Wiggins? Yes, Jefferson, I believe in God. How? I think it's God that makes people care for people, Jefferson. I think it's God makes children play and people sing. I believe in it's God that brings loved ones together. I believe it's God that makes trees bud and food grow on the earth. Who make people kill people, Mr. Wiggins? They kill his son, Jefferson. And he never said a mumbling word. A mumbling word. That's what they say. That's how I want to go, Mr. Wiggins, not a mumbling word. Another cowboy song was playing on the radio, but it was quiet and not disturbing. I could hear inmates down the cell block calling to one another. Jefferson sat forward on the bunk, his hands clasped together again. I still had the notebook. I started to open it, but changed my mind. You need anything, Jefferson? No, I don't need nothing, Mr. Wiggins. Reverend Ambrose say I don't need nothing down here no more. I'll get you that sharpener, I said. I ain't got nothing more to say, Mr. Wiggins. I'm sure you have. I hope the time just hurry up and get here. Cut out all this waiting. I wish I knew what to do, Jefferson. I'm the one got to do everything, Mr. Wiggins. I'm the one. He got up from the bunk and went to the window and looked up at the buds on the higher branches on the sycamore tree. Through the branches of the tree I could see the sky. Through the branches of the tree I could see the sky, blue and lovely and clear. You Are My Sunshine was playing on the radio. Jefferson turned his back to the window and looked at me. Me, Mr. Wiggins? Me to take the cross? Your cross, Nana's cross, my own cross? Me, Mr. Wiggins? This old stumbling nigger? Y'all ask a lot, Mr. Wiggins. He went to the cell door and grasped it with both hands. He started to jerk on the door, but changed his mind and turned back to look at me. Whoever carved my cross, Mr. Wiggins? My mama? My daddy? They dropped me when I wasn't nothing. Still don't know where they are at this minute. I went in the field when I was 6, driving that old water cart. I done pulled that corn sack, I done cut cane, load cane, swung that axe, chopped ditch banks since I was 6. He was standing over me now. Yes, I'm young man, Mr. Wiggins, but nobody didn't know that for now, 'cause for nothing, be for nothing, work for nothing, grind to get by. Everybody thought that's how it was supposed to be. You too, Mr. Wiggins. You never thought I was nothing else. I didn't either. Though I was doing what the Lord had put me on this earth to do. He went to the window and turned to look at me. Now y'all want me to be better than everybody else. How, Mr. Wiggins? You tell me. I don't know, Jefferson. What I got left, Mr. Wiggins? 2 weeks? I think it's something like that if nothing happens. Nothing gonna happen, Mr. Wiggins. And if it ain't something like that, that's all I got on this here earth. I got to face that, Mr. Wiggins. It's all right for y'all to say something like that. For me, it's that's all. And like Reverend Ambrose say, then I'll have to give up this old earth But ain't that where I'm going, Mr. Wiggins? Back in the earth? My head down, I didn't answer him. You can look at me, Mr. Wiggins. I don't mind. I raised my head and I saw him standing there under the window, big and tall and not stood as he had been in chains. I'm going to do my best, Mr. Wiggins. That's all I can promise, my best. You're more a man than I am, Jefferson. 'Cause I'm going to die soon? That make me a man, Mr. Wiggins? My eyes were closed before this moment, Jefferson. My eyes have been closed all my life. Yes, we all need you, every last one of us. He studied me a while, then he turned his back and looked up at the window. So pretty out there, he said. So pretty. I ain't never seen so pretty. I looked at him, standing there big and tall, his broad back towards me. What it gonna be like, Mr. Wiggins? I thought I knew what he was talking about, but I didn't answer him. He turned around to face me. What's it gonna feel like, Mr. Wiggins? I shook my head. I felt my eyes burning. I hope it ain't long. It's not long, Jefferson, I said. How you know, Mr. Wiggins? I read it. I was not looking at him. I was looking at the wall. It had been in the newspapers. The first jolt, if everything is right, immediately knocked the person unconscious. He came back and sat down on the bunk. I'm all right, Mr. Wiggins. I nodded without looking at him. Care for a tattoo, Mr. Wiggins? He said, opening the paper bag. Oh, care for a tattoo? I think he's referring to a potato. He said, opening the paper bag. Sure, I said. So Jefferson is coming into acceptance with death. So this there, list 225. So Jeff sees death now. We also saw like he's having dreams. So Jeff is like, what the heck, man? Everybody wants me to do stuff when I'm here. So I think he's kind of like tired of people asking him like, of people like their expectations of him. And then Reverend's all like, oh, you have to give up of all these material things, but he doesn't have anything, you know? To give up like his possessions, his worldly possessions. Yeah, he has nothing, you know? Grant is feeling better, I think. I think so. I think, yeah, he's seeing changes in Jeff. He will do his best. They're sure potatoes. Potatoes. So that was the end of chapter 28. See you next time.